Hello, gorgeous beauties. So, my name is Dragonflow, aka Frank, and this is my co host, Ozzy the dog, being cute. So, it's a clear indication based on manosphere content and overall feminist content that the sexes are at war with each other. And it's very sad, actually. And I've come to a conclusion. I mean, I haven't studied this in a psychological environment, although I've read a lot of psychology books, and I feel I understand psychology very well. And there is many reasons for the sexes to be angry at each other and frustrated at each other, but I could think of two main reasons why the sexes are currently angry with each other and mad at each other, and it's a lot to digest and think about. So, reason number one is conflict and unresolved issues with the opposite sex parent. So, if you're a man and you have issues with your mom, and or you're a woman and you have issues with your dad, these unresolved issues might permeate into your relationship, whereby you project uh, the ills of the relationship you had with your opposite sex parent into your current relationships, projecting this negative energy, this these unfulfilled desires that you had from your opposite sex parent. Let's say a loving, caring relationship. Let's say an understanding relationships. Example on my end, whenever I would fight with my mom, and I remember I was a kid, we would ignore each other for like 5 days. And we would fight every 2 or 3 weeks. So we spent at least 30 to 40% of the year not talking to each other, which was pretty negative. So going into liking girls or relationships, whenever I wouldn't get my way or I was angry, let's say, I would ignore them. And obviously, this would resolve nothing. And this is something that I thought about as I got older, and the negative repercussions that that component of the relationship between me and my mother had in further in future relationships. So in order to have a better view of the opposite sex, maybe you need to go back in your past and address the problems you had with your opposite sex parent. Maybe if you're a woman, one of the problems you had is that your dad wasn't present, and so you didn't get to see enough male female interaction or positive interaction. Like you didn't get to see your parents dealing with problems in a positive way, if at all. You didn't get to see your father as a primary breadwinner and caretaker of you. And so when you're wanting to date, you don't have this faith in the opposite sex. And so there's a lot of examples I could make, but you have to think of the customized relationship that you personally had with your opposite sex parent and how it's affecting your future and current relationships and how it has affected negatively your past relationship. So that's a number one. Men and women are at odds with each other because there's unaddressed trauma and issues that they haven't fixed with their opposite sex parent, men with women and women with men. The second, and there's many more, but I just want to cover these two. The second is depending on how you rate an SMP or sexual market value, it could very well be that you are not attracting the type of men or women that you would like to attract. So let's say whether you're a guy or you're a girl, and you're, let's say, a 6 on 10, whatever that means for you, and you would like an 8 or a 9, and you're not attracting them, then this leaves you sort of feeling empty and disappointed and angry at the opposite sex. Most of the time, we are not necessarily angry at the opposite sex. We are angry either at the opposite sex parent or the person that we want to project our love to and we can't seem to attract. most people from the opposite sex are just regular people with regular jobs and regular life, just a regular life that are trying to make it through their day-to-day events. So I don't see why a feminist would hate all men. Like all men are bakers, plumbers, engineers, architects, people trying to make society go forward. And I don't see why all men or men would hate all women. A lot of women are teachers, nurses, women trying to bring society forward. And this doesn't mean I wasn't trying to be sexist by saying that. There's obviously criterias and curriculums that overlap for both men and women. Some men are nurses and some women are engineers or whatever. But the point is, you shouldn't hate the opposite sex. Both members of the opposite sex have and are trying to make society and their lives move forward to the best of their ability. So, excuse me, most of this resentment comes from our inability to attract the partners that we would like to be with, and or this unaddressed anguish or anger we have towards the opposite sex parent. So in closing this video, I encourage you to let's go backwards. So look at the women you've tried to attract and haven't been able to attract, and or if you're a woman, the men you've been trying to attract and haven't been able to attract, and try and see how that feeling has permeated throughout all your other relationships with the opposite sex and how you feel about them. And this needs to change, because just because someone is not part of your dating scope, and or because someone else has disappointed you in the dating arena, doesn't mean that all members of the opposite sex are now worthless and nothing. You really need to reevaluate that idea. And number two, which is most important, you have to, which was number one actually, you have to reevaluate the relationship you've had with the opposite sex parent and come to a place where you try and heal from that relationship in order to move forward. If you don't look at these two main things, you will never make peace with the opposite sex. And even if, let's say, that magical day comes that you attract your dream partner 10 on 10 that earns $500,000 and is so beautiful you don't know what to do with yourself, you will not be psychologically ready to manage that relationship because you haven't managed these two main issues. So like and share if you like this video. You could also find me on Instagram under Dragonflow Yoga or Frank Vaccaro. And if you like this content, please leave a comment. Namaste.